Welcome to another installment of the Utah Angler Lecture Series brought to you by Rocky Mountain Anglers and our generous partner Shields. Tonight's speaker is our very own club member Ben Allen, who just got back from winning the Starvation Classic, Utah's biggest walleye tournament, and he's going to share with us tonight how to get into competition-style fishing here in Utah.
You guys can hear me all right?
Yes.
Okay. Wow, it's been a while. Yeah, I'm still a member, even though you guys haven't seen me in a long time. Finally paid my dues for the year. I know COVID shut us down and things went kind of crazy. And I moved up to Syracuse, up past Layton, and so it's a bit of a haul to get here, once a month. So if I'm going to drive over an hour, I want to go fishing. But I guess we're talking about fishing, so that's second best. But yeah, thanks for inviting me to talk about the tournament stuff. Yeah, Dave, I didn't tell you, I didn't think about it, sorry, but it surprised me and Greg. Yeah, we ended up winning the 30th annual. So Utah only has one walleye tournament going right now. For the last few years, they've only had one walleye tournament, and it's called the Starvation Classic. 30th year anniversary. They used to have tournaments beforehand, some at Wheeler, Deer Creek stuff. In the years past, I've heard, but since I've started walleye fishing, this is the only one I've known about. I kind of switched over to tournaments about 3 years ago, just because Tom Davis, guy who used to be in the club, big walleye guy, I learned a lot of techniques from him, and he's like, well, if you want to prove your worth, you got to fish a tournament, and see how you do there with the pressure and the rules and stuff like that. And so yeah, I decided to start fishing, and 3 years ago I fished the Classic the first time, and wouldn't you know, the first day I had to fish by myself because my brother-in-law couldn't make it, and then we fished together the second day, but I think I got 15th place or something out of 40-something boats, and wasn't that great, a bunch of dinks, and then I fished the Idaho Classic tournament as well. So to classify myself as a tournament angler, I wouldn't classify myself, just because those are pretty local tournaments. When people talk about tournament anglers, most people think of like NWT, big bass tournaments. I mean, $40,000 plus payouts, free boats, stuff like that. And I mean, that's the big leagues. That's the big leagues. And not to say that none of us could fish those tournaments. It's just you got to have time and money and the drive to do that kind of thing. It's a time commitment, just like anything else in life. If you want to be good at it, you got to put in the time. And you got to pay your dues, and you got to pay some fees too. So fishing is not cheap. I don't know where, I thought growing up, I always thought fishing was somewhat cheap, and I'm way off. I couldn't be more wrong. I think I spend more money than my wife does, on stuff. So, but anyways, so yeah, I'm going to talk about the Starvation Classic tournament, 30th annual, that just wrapped up on Sunday. This was the 5th tournament I've done. Again, I've done 3 Classics tournaments and then 2 in Idaho. The Idaho one, for anybody who doesn't know about that, it's in Rogerson, Idaho. It's about a 4-hour drive from here. Well, from here probably about 4.5. But a little teeny lake called Salmon Falls Dam. Idaho puts it on every year. It's in June. It's on Father's Day weekend. It's great. It's a great event, to be honest. It's a great event. The fishing hasn't been fantastic for the last few years. They're kind of having the same problems we are with our lakes. You got some guys that just seem to catch big fish, and then everybody else just catches a bunch of little fish, and it's hit and miss. I wish they were a little bit more consistent, but hopefully the DNR will get it squared away, and we can have some consistent, good fishing, at all our walleye reservoirs. But so anyways, I handed out some papers, and again, I wouldn't consider myself a big-time angler, tournament angler. If we wanted to, I do know a guy that does fish NWT tournaments. Well, 2 guys, both Tristan Pendleton and Jake Hammer have fished big-name NWT tournaments, and we're talking 120 boats, 120 teams, and we're talking, yeah, tens of thousands of dollars payout. I mean, we're talking the best names in walleye fishing, and to hear their stories, it was kind of cool. So But anyways, so from a local standpoint, I kind of I just typed that up real quick, excuse any errors or anything, but that was my Tournament 101 form, and it kind of outlines what I think everybody should know about, walleye fishing a tournament. Badger, can I borrow yours first? I didn't grab one for myself. But
Yeah.
just to keep myself on path. So first off, what I will say is I was intimidated. When I first joined the club and I heard about tournament fishing, I was quite intimidated. I'm sure some of you guys, that's maybe why you don't fish tournaments, or maybe you have in the past and it's just not your thing. But I'm here to say that it's not intimidating at all. It's quite a fun event. You don't have to be an excellent angler to attend one of these, to have fun, or even be successful. What I've found is that if you're wanting to fish tournaments and dependent upon winning money or catching big fish, I mean, yeah, tournaments probably aren't for you. Because the real gem, the real, appeal that I have found to tournament fishing is knowledge, is experience, is stories. So the amount of people I've met and the techniques I've learned and the understanding I've gained from walleye fishing has been immense, just talking to guys that know how to do it. And that happens at tournaments, because where else do you rub shoulders with guys like that, on a normal basis? And that's why I joined this club in the very first place, because I said, well, if I want to learn how to catch walleye, I better go, meet some guys that actually catch them. So, but then the stories, at the tournaments, some of the people that I've met at these tournaments have been coming for multiple years in a row. It's an event to them. Just like everybody goes camping, 4th of July weekend or something like that. These guys save their vacation time to come and pre-fish and hang out for a week at Starvation, get to see old friends, and winning money and catching big fish is, like I said, second and third on the list of what they're wanting to gain out of the experience. So, and again, going into this tournament, Greg and I, we knew we had just as good a shot as anyone else at winning it. We finished 4th last year in the tournament, had one big fish on day 1, couldn't seem to find him again on day 2, and ended up 4th. I mean, you mentioned Jerry Sleeth. That guy is the master of Starvation. He has put in his time. He knows that lake, high water, low water, every condition imaginable. And the guy always seems to come in with a big fish or two. And last year he was sitting like 5th, and the next day he called his bag. He said, they didn't have a particularly good first day, but he said, you know what, tomorrow we're going to come in with a 15.5 pound bag. So for you guys that don't fish tournaments, first off, I'll kind of run through the rules, or kind of the overlying rules. Bass fishing and walleye fishing are kind of similar. In bass fishing, you take the 5 best fish. In walleye fishing, you take the 6 best fish. And that's a combination of you and your partner. You guys choose your 6 best fish, and it goes by weight. So it's always good to have a little scale on board to make sure you choose the heaviest fish. But the other rules are you got to keep them alive. Tournaments are catch and release, so you have to have a working live well, because you will be deducted points for dead fish. And if the tournament director determines the fish is so old, he can't tell if it's been caught or not. If maybe you picked up a dead fish, he can disqualify you or do whatever he wants with it. But so yeah, live well, very important. And obviously you got to have your boat in proper working conditions according to state laws. It's got to have, the bilge pump's got to work. You got to have life vest. You got to have, spare propulsion, safety equipment, running lights, because we do blast offs usually in the night, safe light, kind of time range, so it's always dark. Again, yeah, just those are kind of some subtle, and I've listed those in the Tournament 101 kind of page. So anyways, but back to that. So 6 fish is what we're after for walleye fishing. And when I mentioned that Jerry Sleeth had caught a 15.5 pound bag and called it, that's an incredible weight size here for Utah. Okay, maybe not for Lake Sakakawea or Lake Oahe or Midwest, where those guys are catching enormous fish. But for Utah, if you think about 6 fish, 15 divided by 6, that's pretty good, 2.5 pounds or so per piece. And a 2.5 pound walleye is about an 18 to 20 inch walleye. So that kind of puts it in perspective. So those are pretty quality fish. So anyways, the fact that he knew he was going to catch that amount of weight for the second day, without a doubt, and he did. He came in and delivered, was quite impressive. And that's where I want to be. I want to be the person that says, maybe I didn't get him today, but I tested him today. I know where to get him tomorrow. I got a second chance, And that's why you got a 2-day tournament too. It's kind of nice. One guy might luck out day one, not get him the next day. So I've got a whole list of people that did the same thing. They caught big fish on day one, and then they couldn't find anything else on day 2. So, but jumping into it, because I am long-winded. So you can just randomly throw up pictures too, Badger, of the days. I tried to snap some pictures so you guys can kind of get an idea. This was pre-fishing. If anybody knows Flat Island, it's out in front of Indian Bay there at Starvation. That's Flat Island. Looking at Indian Bay back behind here, but and then the ramp and everything's back behind that wall. But the weather was just crazy. I mean, that's kind of normal for people that fish Starvation. That was like that, I would say 50-60% of the time. It was dead calm on Starvation. Just the eeriest thing you've ever experienced, because usually it's calm in the morning, but in the evenings and afternoons, to have it just be dead calm, bluebird day, like we were just like, what is going on here? So, and then we got slammed with this giant thunderstorm. Came through on Saturday, and we had it came through Friday night and Saturday, and we got slammed with like 3-foot waves, 40+ mile an hour winds, series after series of rainstorms. And then Greg and I actually called it on day 1. We were on fish. Greg had just caught 4 big fish in a row in the torrential rain. The boat's bobbing up and down, probably the worst conditions you could ever think of, And we actually left biting fish. We had a half hour left to fish before our weigh-in. And we left because he got shocked, his pole. He actually got shocked. And he could feel his pole vibrating and stuff. So we took a little breather there for a minute and got down, and then the lightning kind of stopped for a minute. So we started fishing again, and then all of a sudden it just lightning on our left, north, south, and west. And we said, we're right in the middle of this lightning storm. Let's not. We had a good bag. We're like, let's not, have a medical emergency. Let's not get electrocuted here and blow it all. So that was kind of bad to leave biting fish, but luckily we knew where they were in the morning, so that was exactly where we came back to, and they were there.
And
Mike?
Where were you at that time?
Where were we at?
Yeah.
Windblown shore.
Okay.
No, I'm just joking. So, no, we were out right in front of Salradas. Where the big sandbar comes in, and then there's rock walls on the side. So we were in that area, that general range. We just like that, and from years of experience fishing it, I've known that in the fall it can be really good. And I was surprised that it actually took me and Greg so long to figure it out, because the wind had been blowing in there for 3 days straight. So, and that goes into some of my notes. So, here's the campground for anybody who hasn't been to Starvation. This is just a small snippet. To the left here, there's like another 40 stalls, camping stalls, full hookups, everything like that. Utah Walleye took over as a sponsor, or they run this tournament now, and then these are all the sponsors that put into it, and there's our Rocky Mountain Anglers over there. So we sponsored the Comeback Kid Award. It's a $250 award, and that is for the team that jumps the most places from day 1 to day 2. And if anybody knows Tristan Pendleton and Tom Davis, they were a team. They're the ones that won our Comeback Kid Award. They went from 13th place to 3rd place. And it's pretty much one fish did it. So, but anyways, so this is the pre-meeting, the driver's meeting, we call it. This is on a Friday night. Water conditions, checking the DNR website, stuff like that. So But anyways, we'll go through these.
Ones that are together. So.
They're all just, yeah, oh yeah, that's filling up the boat. $108. Yeah, that kind of hurt a little bit. But I mean, we didn't use that much gas. For people that know starvation, it's really not that big of a reservoir. So that was pre-fishing Thursday. That was 23 and a halfer, somewhere around 4.5, 5 pounds, something like that. So that was the only nice fish we got that day. We did get a bunch of little small ones, but yeah, we were just searching. So this is the blast off in the morning. My camera's pretty terrible, but it's kind of cool to see all the boats. So there's 29 boats this day one floating. Obviously, it's a much more surreal experience when you're there in person. In the dark, all these lights, navigation lights, and the energy, because everybody does, knows where they want to go, where they want to fish. Everybody's obviously wanting to win this, there's just a competition. It's competition,
Sorry to kind of show these while you were talking before, but.
No, that's fine. Just keep throwing through it. And we can, yeah, this was that day one. So why I put my pole down, my jig is still in the water. Greg turns around and he just says, drop your pole. He's like, I just got shocked. So I just dropped the pole. We both sat down and I said, well, I might as well snap some photos while I'm here. So yeah, obviously photos don't do it justice. For anybody who's taken pictures of stormy weather, it was 10 times worse. This is a video, but
I don't know, I'm going to have to figure that out. It's like, what do you think, Greg? It's like 40-mile-an-hour winds? More than that, probably, huh? Yeah. Fucking just wrecking us. Oh, lightning. We need to get off. Yeah, we need to go. Oh, shit. Let me reel in.
oh, excuse me.
Let me reel in.
Yeah. So anyways, it was a typical starvation fall for everyone who's fished it. One day can be beautiful, calm. The next day, windy and nasty as can be. So, and back and forth. So, the weigh-in station, and I'll go through all that stuff. So, well, I might as well just comment on the photos. So, this is the weigh-in station. Obviously, you got to keep your fish alive. You have a set launch and weigh-in time. So for this, it was safe light, was about 6:32 on day one, is when people blasted off. And you, on that driver's meeting on Friday night, that's when you pay your dues, pay your entry fee, and you draw a blast-off number. And how they did that was they just had a little purse full of little chips, numbered chips, and you just select a chip randomly. So, and for anybody who's fished tournaments, they know it's important because if you have a good spot, most likely other guys know where that good spot is too. The first boat to get there is going to get the fish normally. So we lucked out and we drew number 6. And boat number 5 was actually an Idaho boat that didn't even fish the tournament. So we were actually 5th out that morning, and we got first dibs at our spot, and I think that made all the difference. But so yeah, Utah Walleye's putting this on. They had a couple nice trailers. And then, yeah, that's the fish I caught on day 2, 28-incher, skinny. It's probably about 7'3". We didn't really weigh it. Greg caught I'll go into that story later, but, oh yeah. So I did those together because the biggest fish we caught and then the smallest fish. I mean, that thing was, 5 inches long? Just a dinky little walleye. What's that, jig? Just a jig right through the belly too. I snagged him. Obviously, he wasn't trying to eat it, but yeah, it was. I mean, it's good to see age ranges like that. I mean, we caught those 6 inchers, 8 inchers, 10 inchers, a bunch of 14s, a handful of 17s. Strangely enough, all the big fish caught were in the 27 to 28 range, and that's those are similar age classes. So that's. I don't know what age year that would have been, but I mean, 27, 28-inch fish, I mean, that's 7 years old probably or more. So, but anyways, yeah, this is just looking at the water. I mean, for anybody that knows, this is the dam over here, and then that's the water treatment center. I mean, there's some sportsman's access. People drive down and park and stuff. But anyways, I don't know what this bay area is called, but I mean, those points aren't normally exposed at all. They're covered up, but and yeah, it's just dead calm. So I thought it was worth taking a picture of. So, I mean, I got too many good stories. I don't even know where to start. So that's a 24.5-inch fish that we had to release on day 2. I had to cull it out. And as fishermen in tournaments, you always joke about that, you know, like, oh, what if we had to throw away a big fish? I mean, it's a good day when you got to cull out a big fish. So the state park laws, well, and the state laws say that you can only have one 24-inch fish or over 24-inch fish for each angler. So 2 guys on the boat, you can only have 2 fish over 24 inches. On Sunday morning, we went back to our point. It took us about 20 minutes before I found my 28-incher. She was up shallow, probably 7-8 feet deep. And when walleyes are up shallow, they're feeding. So they're going to be aggressive, they're going to bite. So I caught that one, and we caught a couple 18s, a couple 20s in between the day. And then we came back to that point about 1 in the afternoon, dead calm. And for anybody that knows walleye fishing, you know, you just pray for wind. It's really weird. You know, it's like, weather's great, fishing sucks. Weather's terrible, fishing's great. For some reason, you just need that weather, you know, pattern change to turn those walleyes on, to get them to do stupid things like bite your lure, you know. So we were waiting for that afternoon wind. It never came on Sunday. Dead calm, bluebird, bright sunny day. We went back to that point, worked it, got a couple small ones. We were in flight 2 the second day because we went out 6th on day 1. So 30 anglers, 30 teams, so 60 anglers, 30 teams. They divided the field in half, which is normal. 15 boats. So 1 through 15 launched first, and then 16 through 30 launched second. And what that means is your weigh-in time is a half-hour difference. So for us, weigh-in time was 3 o'clock on day 1, and flight 2 was 3:30. And then on day 2, our flight, we were second flight out, so our weigh-in time was 3:30. So I want to build up this story because everybody knows Tristan, not everybody, but some of you guys know Tristan Pendleton, great fisherman, and Tom Davis. So they were a team. They ended up moving up to 3rd. They took home more hardware and more bonus checks than we did, you know, in 3rd place versus 1st place. And it was because of one fish. They didn't particularly have a great tournament the day 1. Again, they were sitting 13th. Day 2, they really couldn't find him either. They had to weigh in at 3 o'clock. At like 2:40 something, we're fishing the same area. They're just up around the corner. And we just hear this big old hoot and holler. And I was like, what was that? You know, and my first thought, I was like, it kind of sounded like a girl jumping off a ski boat, you know, into the water or something. I was like, what was that? Sure enough, 2 minutes later, here comes Tom and Tristan just blowing full blast past us because they got to be at the dock, you know, by 3, and it's 2:50 something right now. And they're just all smiles and waving, and I thought they were just saying hi, you know, like, oh, here, and nope. They busted an 8.85, big old giant, almost 9-pound walleye, pretty much 9 pounds. And good story. I heard the story later. Tom caught it on like a swim bait. And he cast it too shallow. He actually cast it on shore, hopped it in, and that fish was sitting in like 2 feet of water. Just gobbled it up and went straight to the bottom, 30 feet. And they fought it. Tom dropped his glasses, broke his glasses. He's a nervous wreck, you know, because obviously for anybody who knows, that's the fun of tournaments is every fish matters. And you're a nervous wreck because you're like, is this going to come off? Am I going to get in the boat? You know, am I going to move up points? And that's the fun of tournament, is there's risk. There's a risk and a benefit to the situation. So, yeah, so they got that in the boat, so they were super happy, so they left. So we keep fishing, and at 3:20, it was about 3:17, I said, Greg, let's go. We got a good bag. I don't know if it's going to beat Wes Karen, who was in the lead from day 1. He had a really good bag day 1. We thought for sure he was going to kill it again day 2, so we knew we needed a monster bag to move from second to first, because we were 4 pounds behind him after day 1. But anyway, so I started packing up. I had all my rods sleeved and all my gear packed, and Greg was like, I want to hit this last point where he had caught the fish the day before, and Jake Hammer was sitting on that point off to the corner, just off to the right, the south side. And we come in, and Greg was, like anglers do, you're supposed to be courteous, and, you're not supposed to encroach on people. And we weren't. We were still 150, 200 feet away from him. And he said, it's a great story. He says, Jake, we were talking back and forth this whole time, too, while we're fishing, just yelling to each other back and forth, just talking because we're all friends. And he says, hey, Jake, do you mind if I come up and take a couple casts at this side of the point? And he's like, sure, because they can cast to that side anyways. And I'm packing up and I'm saying, let's go, Greg, let's go. It's 3:17. It's going to take us a few minutes to get to the ramp. Let's go. And he goes, no, I just want to make a couple casts. His first cast, hops it like 3 times, and he's like, big fish. And I was like, you're joking me. I'm like, you're snagging. He's like, big fish. And I see his pole just doubled over. And I was like, are you kidding me? He fought that fish for a little bit and couldn't see it, kept taking runs. And I got out Greg's net. So Greg has a little superstition. I think we're all superstitious. But he's had a net for about 20 years, 20-year-old net. And this thing is short. It's like a little 4-footer. It's a decent hoop size, 22 inches hoop or something, but it's a little shorty. And he just doesn't want to get a new one. And he's like, it's good luck. It's good luck, So he's bringing up this fish, and the angle, he's up on the bow, and he's bringing it off to the port side, and I could not get an angle on this fish because his console was right there and his windshield, and I couldn't go around this way, and he was fighting it this way. Oh man, it was kind of a rodeo. I'm surprised Jake Hammer didn't take a video of it because it was pretty funny. But so he gets it to the surface, and I miss that first. It rolls and dives, and I don't get it, and I just, by the grace of God, it didn't unhook. Because that's usually when they spit the hook and take off. So we got another shot at it, and I didn't miss it that time, and we could have sworn it was a 30-inch fish. We could have. But fish just look a lot bigger in the water than when you get them in the boat. And it was still a big fish. It was 27.5 inches long, and it was a 8-pounder, 797, something like that. So, of course, we're stoked. We were just stoked. And again, bluebird day, no wind, no rhyme or reason why this fish was there, why it came up there. Just right place, the right time, the right bait. I don't know what it was. So obviously we were like, well, what do we do now? Because we had my 28-incher and my 24.5. And I was like, well, we got to get rid of the 24. So down she went. So that's a hard one to release that because all our other fish were like 17s, a couple 20s. So anyways, then we jetted back in. But yeah, so it's a good story. We had a good time with that one. But I guess, do you guys want me to run through this Tournament 101 stuff? Or do you guys just have some questions already that you want to ask?
Yeah, did your fish come in streaks and spots? Did you have some lulls where
Absolutely.
you get a bite for hours?
Absolutely. So if you look down on tournament day, the bullet I've got limited tournament day, it kind of outlines that. Yes, and we figured that out with pre-fishing, and we also knew from years of experience fishing. So again, this wasn't just a one-day adventure endeavor. Like Mike had said, I've spent thousands of dollars and many days traveling to Starvation to figure it out, and I've had many days of absolutely nothing. Just little teeny fish or absolutely nothing, maybe a couple smallmouth and a trout or something. And then you have really good days. And I actually haven't had a really good day at Starvation until, I guess it was last year I won the Catch a Cure, which is a charity event for Camp Hobie. Got a big fish there, but it was just one big fish. And then we fished the Classic last year, and I got another 27-inch fish. But again, those were my best days ever. To have a day like we had, where we caught multiple fish over 24 inches, was just, I've never had a day like that ever on Starvation. So,
did you get any, across any nice smallmouth by accident?
We actually, I think we killed one. We feel bad. We released it, she swam away, but yeah, we caught 6 smallmouth, 4 of them were over 16. And Jerry Sleeth had told us that he was at a bass tournament there just a few weeks or something before. And I think he said, did he say 15 or 16-pound bag? So for 5 fish, 3-pound average fish. Yeah, they were big, fat smallies. And the one that The one that we don't know if she lived or not, she inhaled the bait. It was down past her gills, and trying to get it out, she was bleeding like crazy. I mean, we released her, but hopefully she lived. But yeah, we did get some nice smallies. We also got 3 big trout. I mean, 18 to 21 inches or something. And then lots of little perch. Little perch. We got a couple 8 to 10 inchers, just 2 of those, but the most of them we caught were little teeny perch. And we actually ended up snagging them. Just because the way we're hopping our jigs and stuff, it was just gutting them, and they were just so thick in there. So, but yes, back to your question. From tournament fishing, from pre-fishing, from years of experience, you got to draw on all that knowledge and experience. We noticed that the bite was in the morning. It was as early as you could get out there, sun up, till about 7:30, 8 o'clock is when the sun came over that east wall. And once the sun hit the water, it's like they were gone. They were shut off. And then you had to grind, the grind from 9 p.m. or 9 a.m. to about, I'd say, 1 or 2 p.m. before we actually saw, 1 or 2 p.m. is when we actually saw the second kind of bite window show up. And when I say bite window, I mean like you got a half hour, maybe an hour absolute max, and then they're back asleep or doing whatever they're doing. I don't know, but. So yes, so we knew that, and so we knew that our first few casts were going to be the make or break, and everybody in that tournament knew that too. You had to pick your spot, you had to get there first, and if you didn't catch those first fish in the first hour, I mean, your chances were pretty low. So, but you're never out of it. Yes, question?
Just a couple questions.
Yeah.
One, so when you're fishing a bait, and you know the hour you're fishing a major
Yep.
or a minor, do you use any applications to determine, like the fishing major hours and minor hours, do any of that, Ben, or it's all by feel?
Are you talking like moon phase stuff or anything like that?
There's a lot of fish apps that'll give you like the major
Yeah.
hour and minor. Do you use that? Or?
I don't, but I do know of guys that do. That they
When you're dialed in though, and you know you're in a major fishing period, if you're fishing a bait that's not hitting, how long do you fish it before you switch? How long do you stay with it? Very long at all? Or?
Not very long at all, no. Because, I mean, from pre-fishing, we knew what baits were better than others. And we usually start pretty aggressive baits, crank baits. Hopping jigs, stuff like that, swim baits, quick action stuff, where if you get bit, it's going to be a nice fish. And then if you don't get bit on that, then you slow it down. Jigging a worm, slow rolling stuff, bottom bouncing. Other stuff like that. But yes, I didn't pay attention to the moon phase at all, to be honest, but for 3 straight days, yeah, we just noticed a pattern that it was definitely morning was the absolute best time, which, most fishermen know that anyways. No matter what the moon phase is, usually your morning period and your evening period, low light positions are going to be the best time for walleye fishing. That's what made that afternoon bite just completely contrary to anything you'd ever believe, is why did 2 giant fish get caught midday, sunny, calm conditions, They were just hungry, I guess. I guess it was their cycle, Mike.
Usually in a tournament, if you don't have it dialed in, 2 guys try to use 2 different things. Walleye tournament or bass. Was there ever a time when you guys used the same thing because you knew that was the deal?
Absolutely.
Half hour?
Yeah, once I caught like 5 fish. What was strange was I was the hot hand in the morning, and Greg got a couple here and there, and then in the afternoon, Greg was the hot hand, and I'd get 1 or 2. It was the strangest thing in the world. So we were using a similar bait that's fished similar ways, but I guess those minor subtle differences, or I don't know. I couldn't tell you what changed. But I did take 5 rods, and I had 5 different presentations rigged up on them, my bottom bouncing rod, my crankbait rod, my jigging rod, dead stick jigging a worm rod, plastic rods for swim baits. And what I like most, one of my favorite baits out there is a little moon eye, like a 1/4 ounce moon eye jig, and a 3-inch minnow, like soft bait or something like that. So, and why? It's because we were just matching the hatch. Those fish.
How deep were your deepest?
30 feet was our deepest fish, and like I said, about 7-8 feet was our shallowest fish. And that was in the morning. In the afternoon, They just dived. We could see water clarity in some spots was up to like 9-10 feet, super clear. And then, I mean, some places were murky, but still about 5-6 feet of visibility. So, yeah. So again, that's, I kind of outlined that in the Tournament 101. Let me run through it just real quick so you guys can ask some questions while on the way. But the first one is decide on what tournaments you want to fish for the upcoming season. Obviously, if you want to do tournaments, decide which ones you're going to do. You're going to do the Idaho ones, the Wyoming ones, the Utah ones, and plan it into your schedule. Don't leave it up to, just last minute decisions. Say, oh, okay, now I want to go fish it. Obviously, you can still do that, but I mean, we planned this probably about 4 or 5 months in advance. We had the hotel room booked out. We knew we were going to do this, took time off work, everything else, so that we could focus on fishing it. So yeah, request, plan time off, and make travel arrangements to go, and then just budget and expenses. So tournaments aren't that expensive. I mean, it's we all spend money on what we want to. I mean, some guys spend thousands of dollars to go camp up in the mountains to hunt elk, every year. So $250 was the entry fee, and that's pretty standard for like the Idaho Classic tournament and the Utah tournament. So that's per team, so $125 per guy. And then they have optional pots. So there's a big fish pot, which is usually $20 per team. And then we put in for a red, white, and blue pot. And all the red, white, blue pot is first place team gets the red pot, second place team gets the blue pot, third place team gets the blue pot, and second was white. So anyway, so those are varying amounts of money depending on who puts in the money for the pot. They used to have like a mixed couples pot, and that wasn't here this year. So anyways, I think we ended up spending $290 per team. So about $150 a guy. Our room was $100 a night, so 3 nights, $300, so $150 there. So that's another, $300 plus gas, $450. Yeah, I mean, you're looking at about $450, $500 per guy to do this tournament. You know what I mean? But again, we all spend money. We all spend that much money on something else, But so yeah, it's definitely not cheap. It's not just like show up and fish it, kind of like club tournaments, stuff like that. But again, it's not putting in NWT tournaments. I can't remember how much those are. I mean, I think the pros are putting in like $1,500 or something, and co-anglers are dropping like $500 per tournament, so. And they're also driving 20 hours across the country to fish these tournaments and stuff like that. So, but anyways, the second on the list, the second bullet point is become familiar with the water body. We went over that. Fish it. There's no excuse. There's no substitute, I guess you would say, for experience, time on the water. I know some days you beat your head against the rocks and you're like, what am I doing here? I don't feel like I'm learning this water at all. But that time will pay off. Strangely enough, you'll notice a pattern. You'll notice something happen. Water conditions. You'll see bait fish movements. You got to be there. And to be honest, a lot of times my worst fishing days have been my best days, because after I get off the water, I run into another angler who has been fishing that for years, and you just naturally start BSing with anglers. There's something about us. We just love to chat with each other, and I've learned so much inside information and bait selections and locations and bite patterns, best times of the year, just by meeting guys at the ramp, So even if you have a crappy fishing day, don't rule it out. There's always silver lining usually somewhere. But
I have a question. So in your fishing up to the tournament, so most of us, if it's not a very good day fishing, we'll say, maybe I won't fish that. But if you plan to go fish and it's bad weather, do you still go fish so you can prepare for the tournament?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So
you fish bad days and good days.
Yeah, we put the boat away soaking wet a few times a year probably. Yeah, because you don't know. That's the beauty of a tournament. Is you might think you're the best angler in the state, and you've got to bring it on that day. And it's the great equalizer. It's not the spawn time. It's not when everybody else is catching. They pick 2 days out of a year. They don't know what the weather's going to be like, what the water level's going to be like, any conditions like that. And you got to show up and it's what angler can figure it out with the conditions they're given. So, and yeah, you can see it in the tournament results. There's some guys that are, Jerry Pendleton for one, amazing fisherman, knows that lake extremely well. Finished third last year. I mean, I can't remember where him and Pendleton. Yeah, 16th. Him and Forrest finished 16th, and he was third place last year, and he knows that lake extremely well. It's just, it's a great equalizer. So, guys can luck out, snag a big fish, be in the running, and be in the money. So it's kind of nice. So it's not always the big name guys winning it. But
what did you find out Friday that proved true that didn't work, and it didn't work Saturday, and it didn't work Sunday? And what did you find out that worked all 3 days or whatever?
Oh, man.
Anything just not do?
What did we figure out? We only fished half a day Friday. We fished in the morning because we didn't get there until Thursday. Both Greg and I have our full-time jobs and our young kids. We didn't get on the road till 1 o'clock. We didn't get on the water till 4:30 on Thursday. And to be honest, we actually spent 2 straight hours. I've never done it before, but and he hadn't either done it before. And we didn't plan to, but for 2 straight hours we just graphed. We didn't even put a line in. We didn't drag a bait around or anything. We just used our electronics, and kind of I guess a promotion. Use your side imaging. If you got side imaging on your electronics, use it. I was always one of those guys that's like, oh, you don't need side imaging in Utah, or down imaging. Those are for like bass fishermen and stuff like that. I use side imaging every single day. And I'm saving up money to buy one of those live scopes or Panoptics, which are expensive. I know they are, but the amount of information you can gather from those is invaluable. Because not only does it show you good areas, it eliminates a lot of areas. And that's what you're trying to do, is you're just trying to increase your odds. But yeah, on Friday, so Thursday, we didn't wet a line till about 6:30, and we went up in Salratus and we fished those humps. If anybody knows, there's like a series of like 3 or 4 humps right in the middle of Salratus towards the north. They were anywhere from like 22 feet below the water up to like 16 feet, some of the shallower ones. And for some reason, that's a good midsummer, late summer spot for walleyes. So we went and actually bagged quite a few small ones that Thursday night on our minnow stuff, plastics and stuff like that. So we knew where we could find some fish, at least to get in the live well. But we really didn't fish it hard. So Friday morning, we knew exactly where to go. We hit the sandbar area around that place and stuff like that, and caught a decent fish, that 23 and a half. So we knew what bait was going to work. We tried bottom bounce in that area, didn't work. Crankbaits, no, we didn't do it, didn't work. Dead stick, we got a couple on a dead stick, jigging a worm, tried working it. For some reason, they weren't really annihilating that. So jigging plastic was probably our most successful, similar techniques, or active baits, really, really quick stuff, but reaction bites kind of things. But anyways, so we knew what we were going to use Saturday morning. And again, that goes into part of tournament time. Narrow down your selection. And what I've always been told, even in back in my basketball days, my coach would always say, do what you're good at. You're not good at shooting 3-pointers, but you're good at rebounding, or you're good at defense. Don't try to be the all-around star. Be really good at what you excel at. And so I know I don't excel at crankbaits. I have not figured out how to troll crankbaits or cast crankbaits. I caught a couple of walleyes on them, but I'm just not confident. I know they work. I know guys catch big walleyes on crankbaits, but it's just I haven't put in the time to figure out that technique. I am really good at bottom bouncing. So, we were able to pick some up bottom bouncing, but none of them were big. So we concentrated. We're really good at jigging, Greg and I, filling those little subtle bites, finesse kind of stuff. So we just stuck to that pretty much most of the tournament. So, but I do know the leaderboard. I think those guys, we didn't see them all day on Saturday, but According to what I heard from other anglers, they were pulling crankbaits, just trolling crankbaits on planer boards, and that's how they got that 8.0 bait, 8-pounder, and then they also had a series of 2 and 3 pound fish. So they had a really good bag day one. They had 18.8 or something like that. That's a big bag.
So where you were in Salarita, she had a good view of boats coming in.
Absolutely.
Did you ever look out and count like we usually
Yep.
do and say, well, there's 12 in here, or was half the field there?
No,
Okay.
most of them went south. Strangely, and I don't know what they were doing. I mean, obviously, there was quite a few 6-pounders caught from those guys that went south. So they obviously had a spot, that they got them from, but there wasn't numbers, or they didn't know how to get them. But yes, that brings up another point. I mean, pay attention to all details. And I'm just barely learning, and there's so many things that I don't see. But I've started recognizing who the good guys are. Obviously, you hear their names and you see them and you meet them. Yeah, know what their boat looks like. Because when you see their boat trolling a certain area, maybe you've never thought of, in your mind, you're just like, oh, there's another spot that I could probably check out later on, and so, and you also know in tournament fishing, if boats are moving around a lot, they're not getting them. So if there's a lot of activity on the lake, the fishing's not that good. So people aren't moving from a spot, you can pretty guarantee they're catching fish there. So, but moving on down, the tournament week, you got the lodging, you got travel, some things you don't think of. This is good all around knowledge. Is make sure your boat's working, make sure your live well's working, make sure your batteries are charged, make sure your tires are inflated, your hubs are done, make sure your truck, is registered and taken care of. So, because I've heard crazy stories like that, guys miss tournaments because their truck breaks down, or tires fall off or something like that. So, just the little things kind of make a difference. Explore everything. I've had my mind open in the last 2 years. I've always been told walleye 20 feet. And though that's true, they are there. All of my big fish I've ever caught have come in probably less than 8 feet of water. And it's timing. They're not always there. It's like breakfast time. They show up at Starbucks, grab their coffee and their bagel, and then they're out. So you literally got a 15, 20-minute window, and you got to be in the right place, using the right stuff. So, but yeah, pay attention to everything. We looked at shallow water, deep water, mud, sand, hard rock. We looked at weed lines. There was barely any there, but there were some weed lines. Walleyes also suspend, which kind of blows my mind too. We've caught them out crankbaiting, over like 20 feet of water, and they're only 10 feet down, So they're keying on prey species. Obviously, that's their motivation. That's a walleye's motivation. And all fish in general is eating. Their stomach drives everything they do. So, so if you're not finding the walleyes, find the bait fish, and you'll find the walleyes. So that's what else we did. We graphed a lot for perch. And we didn't see a whole lot of clouds of perch except for one area, and that one area is where we caught all our big fish, strange enough, so. But revisit areas, because again, the patterns change. Morning's usually best, but like again, the afternoon, we figured out that there was like a 1, 2 o'clock bite that we could get on that give us a second chance for fish. So during the tournament time, we went over the pre-tournament meeting. Be on time. They'll give you all the rules. If you're questioning any of the rules, ask the tournament director. I also gave you guys a little sheet for the Starvation Classic rules. Pretty basic stuff. It goes over, don't encroach on people, don't be rude to people. You can't be on the water a half hour. You have to be off the water a half hour before the driver's meeting. So that's 4:30, you have to be off the water. You can't get back on the water until the time of the tournament the next morning. And then same thing, when you weigh in, you're off the lake. You can't go back out. Because obviously they're trying to eliminate any chance of skullduggery. I don't know, what do you call it? Yeah, people cheat at tournaments. People cheat. I've heard. I've never witnessed it. I can't verify it, but I've heard of people catching fish, putting them on a stringer, and dumping them on a weight in the back of a bay, the day or two before, and then going back there and pulling that thing up
throwing them in their live wells, you know. So, I mean, there's probably countless ways of cheating, you know, getting fish from other anglers, you know, have your buddy out there fishing too, and he's sharing his good fish with you. And so there's the rules are there to keep it fair, you know. But, so anyways, tournament day, tournament time, yeah. Have your places picked out. I learned this from the first day. The first tournament, I had no idea where I was going. Absolutely not. I had pre-fished the day before. No spot was better than another. And I was just hands up. I was like, I don't know where to go. And it's strange because you're like, well, just drive the boat somewhere. But you just kind of freeze. You're like, where do I go? I don't know where to go, you know. So have a plan, even if it's a terrible plan, you know. Have a plan A. I'm going to go to this point. If that's taken by the other anglers, go to plan B. Go to plan C. Plan D, you know. Have some kind of structure so that you're not just winging it, to be honest. Have a plan. Because if you wing it, chances are things are going to get pretty ugly pretty fast. And it's going to snowball into your day. So, but the other tips and tricks I can give you is on the day of the tournament, when you do launch, so before blast off, this year they opened the ramp at 5 a.m. and they were checking boats. So the tournament director and his help are down there looking at your boat before you launch it. With their flashlights, they inspect your live well. If you have 2 live wells, they look at both to make sure there's no fish in them, obviously. They look to make sure you have your life vest and your running lights. And then you launch and wait. I recommend you be there early. I mean, blast off wasn't until 6:32, but if you get there early, there's a lot less congestion at the ramp. So we launched about an hour before blast off, and you just avoid a bunch of that chaos at the ramp. If anybody's experienced it, but and then you just wait. You wait and anticipate. You get your gear ready. You plan things out. So it's good to have more time than less time to plan things. So, but pay attention. You know, if you can, at the driver's meeting, pay attention and see what boats are ahead of you. You know, we were boat 6, so we wanted to know who was boat 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Because when you're out there in that ramp in that bay, you know, this is only 30 boats, but I've been there where there's 40-something boats there. I mean, everybody's kind of spread out, so you're not banging into each other, but you cannot hear them. They usually have a blowhorn, and they're announcing order. Who's blasting off first, second, third, you know. And if there's any kind of wind, you can't hear them from over a couple hundred feet away. So it's nice to know what the boat looks like of the tournament in front of you, the angler leaving in front of you, so that you're not in the back of the pack and all of a sudden your position to launch is going, you know what I mean? Because they'll put you in the back of the last to launch, you know, if you're not ready to go. So anyways, we've been there before, so that's just another trick, but a little tip. Yeah, weigh-ins, be on time because you'll get dock points, and believe me, it's they drop like a pound. I mean, most of those fish people were catching were a pound. So I mean, if you're late to the ramp, you're pretty much you're not gonna get much weight at all. So, and we don't usually see anybody. I haven't seen anybody show up late to the ramp in the weigh-in time. So what they do allow you to do at the ramps is they drop you off. I go and get the trailer, back it in, put the boat on the trailer, and then you can pull your fish out of your live well right there. Or if you choose, you can unload your live well at the ramp and walk up the bag full of fish up to the weigh station. They have a couple big tubs of water up there, so you take your bag and you kind of just rest it in there, set it in there, kind of keep the fish a little bit more calm until, you know, they've weighed the guy in front of you. They'll take your bag, they'll dump the fish out in like kind of a screen, you know, to get the water out. And they'll count the fish because you got to have 6 fish. If you bring in 7, they penalize you, you know, and obviously if you have less, I mean, that's just less. You can have less, but you can have more. So, and then they ask you for a big fish. If you have a big fish that you want to weigh, you have to identify it. And Greg and I actually had the experience. My fish was a 28-incher and his was a 27.5, but his outweighed mine by almost a pound. Mine was just a skinny 28 and his was a fat 27. So don't go based off length. We used a scale, so we knew exactly which one was bigger. So, but anyways, you have to identify. And you can't just say, yeah, put me in for big fish. that, you know, because they can't just grab whatever fish they want and weigh it. You have to actually tell them which one it is. So, but anyway, so they grab those and then they stick them in a common bag. So they have like a standardized bag, and then they put that standardized bag is, you know, compensates for the weight or whatever on the scale. They put it on the scale. They get a weight. They write you a little ticket, you know, like a little receipt, tells you how many fish you had and how much the weight was, and then and then you bag up your fish, put some water back in it, and then go and release them. So usually we just walk down the ramp and let them swim away. But yeah.
A couple questions back up. What was the water temp?
Okay.
Did you lose any fish that at the time you went, you know, God, we should have had that one? And how long did you have to wait until you weighed in till you knew?
Yeah,
you know, was it pretty organized and all that?
That one up in the top right, they're right there, yeah. Yeah, water temp. So before I even left, 2 to 3 days before, I checked the state park website. They were saying water temp 75, level 62%. Last year was somewhere in the 70%, you know. And then way off. I don't know when they measure these things or when they update them. The water temp when we got there was, we saw as low as 66 in the morning and as high as 70. But after that cold front came through on Friday night, Saturday, we saw 66 to 68 was the water temps. So, which is good because temps above 70 degrees are really hard for fish, for anybody who knows. They don't have a real high survival rate, the higher the water temp gets, because the less oxygen it holds that dissolves in the water. All those kind of things play a factor. But anyway, so yeah, I mean, I checked everything I could, every information I could. I had my weather app, trying to see what weather patterns were coming through, what the projected wind speeds were going to be, stuff like that, trying to figure out like a time pattern, you know, where to be at the right time. So, but anyways, going back to what were you saying about?
Did you miss anything at the time? You thought, oh man.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
A lot of people lost big fish, a lot of them. I was surprised. Pendleton's told us they lost a couple big ones at the boat. Knock on wood, I didn't lose any fish, like at least big fish. I did lose like some smaller ones. I felt like you can tell when it's a big fish. You really can. You can foul hook a fish and it feels pretty big, but when you hook a big fish and you feel that first initial head shake, just like a wick, you know it's a big fish. I didn't lose any, but Greg, oh my goodness, I don't know how many he lost. Saturday, when the wind came up and it got crazy, he caught 4 nice fish, like 2 20s or 20 at 22, and then he caught, what was our big fish? 387, so that was about 23-inch fish or something. But yeah, he had lost a couple fish right before that, and one of them broke him off. Like, fought it, popped, and his line broke. He doesn't know if it was a bad knot tie or if it was just that big a fish, you know, or what. But it's day two. Day 2 was a heartache for us. And it was up and down. And I mean, that just adds to the excitement of the tournament. You know what I mean? That adds to the whole experience. Day 2, we get to our spot. I catch a couple fish right off the bat. They're not real big, like a 17 and maybe a little 14 or something. Greg hooks into one, fights it, pops off, gone. Hooks another one. And that's the one he broke off. Never mind. That was Saturday, not Friday. Broke that second one off. So he reties the same bait on. Hooks another one and loses it in the exact same spot. And I was just like, what? Like we looked at his bait. We checked the hooks to make sure they were tight. They weren't bent. You know, we were just like, what is going on here? Like he could not pin a fish for some strange reason. And it could have been the bait selection he had. But so anyways, he lost 3 right there on that point, and then we worked our way back. I caught that 28-incher, and then I caught another like 17-incher out of that same general area, and then he hooked something massive. All I hear was like big fish, because that's all he says. Like, hey, big fish. You know, that's code for get the net, get ready. You know. And I look back at his pole. He's fighting it like this, and it's just under the boat, and the pole's just in half, and you can see it. You know, that jerk when you know it's a big fish, and he fought it for about, I don't know, 5 seconds, and then popped off. He collapsed on the deck. He was so mad. He was just like, what in the, you know, what is going on? Why aren't these fish staying pinned? And he's like, I have no idea. But so yeah, we lost big fish. Tristan lost big fish, he said. Forrest Pendleton and Jerry lost some big fish. I can't remember if Hammer did, but yeah, they get off. I mean, it's tricky. That's the heartache, sometimes. So, but yes. What were the other questions?
How organized was it? Once you weighed in, how long did you have to wait until you knew you won?
So we were the second to last to weigh in, second or third to last to weigh in. So we pretty much knew. It was chaos, though. To be honest, it was chaos because we had caught that. I had the 28 incher in there, and then he caught that 27 and a half. We had to throw back to 24 and a half, and then we had the other 4 fish, that were, I think 120, 17, 19, something like that. So we actually had 2 bags. So he took a bag of the small. I took the small ones. He took the bag with the 2 giants in it, and so we were sitting there weighing them, and then they're like, "Oh, which fish do you want for big fish?" So we pulled that out, and then it was just chaos for some strange reason because me and Greg are real catch and release fanatics. I don't know, we're probably a little too on the extreme side, but I love to eat walleyes. I absolutely do, and eat them. I'm not saying not to, but we love to see big fish released because we spend thousands of dollars to try to catch those. It's the entertainment value more than it is a meat on the table value to us. But I don't know if that's a generational thing or what it is. But anyway, so that was our sole motivation was we don't want to stress these big fish because I've seen 25-inch fish die in the bay at starvation, and it's the saddest thing ever. Obviously, someone gets to eat it, but you're like, yeah, that's 5-6-year-old fish, that's and not that many people are catching them. I mean, we just want big fish to be caught by everyone, and if you take them out of there, that's one less fish for someone to catch, But anyway, so we were motivated to get those fish back. So we were like, don't stress us. They wanted to take a picture, of course. So we took a quick picture, put them back in the bags, and yeah, it was. We didn't even see the weight. I didn't even see the weight till we came back. I had no idea we brought in 21 pounds that day. So that was just blew my mind. But anyways, but they did pretty good. Kirk Bostic is the guy that runs the Utah Walleye. He took over for George Somers. Anybody who knows George Somers, he's done the Classic for years. And last year he said he didn't want to do it anymore because he wanted to fish it. Because if you're a tournament director, you don't get to fish it. You have too much to do, organizing it. So we expect to see George there, and he wasn't there. There was a lot of guys that weren't there, strangely enough. Don't know why, but anyways, Kirk did a really good job. Really open-minded guy. He's looking for suggestions, to kind of improve the tournament and try to get more people to participate in it. Because obviously the payout. So the way that our tournaments work here in Utah is it's an 80-20. So from all the money that's paid in by the anglers, all the entry fees, 80% of that money will come back to the anglers. And that's in the form of first through 10th place. They kind of divide the winnings up that way. And then they do get a bunch of sponsors. The state park, allows us to use their facilities, stuff like that. And Duchesne City, because it's in Duchesne, does a lot of sponsorship, stuff like that. And so they chip in for a lot of raffles. We did have a lot of raffles this year. They do every year, but this year it was all guns. It's all guns. I think I saw like 25 guns raffled off this weekend. Because I think it was one of the sponsors was Wildlife Conservation Fund or something, WCF. I think that's Wildlife Conservation Fund. But anyways, they're raffling off. I don't know most of the gun types, but big hunting rifles, semi-automatics, a lot of handguns. I mean, they raffled off probably about $8,000 worth of guns. I think. It was crazy. It was absolutely crazy. But so this is, I call it the young guns, and then Tom. So Tom is 7 years old. He's fishing with Tristan. He's in his mid-20s, and then Greg and I'm almost 40. Greg's 50, and then Hammer and Kirchhoff. So these guys won it last year. Jake Hammer and Garrett Kirchhoff had a really big bag. Did really, really well. So they were hoping to repeat, but they ended up getting 5th. These were some really nice trophies that were actually made by Uinta Basin Technical College, which is based there in Duchesne. So they kind of stayed local, had some people do some stuff. So, but anyways, I'm glad they took that picture. That was Tristan's idea. You know, kind of put it on the website, kind of memory stuff. But yeah, you see how dead calm it was. That was Saturday at like 6 o'clock. So, not a ripple on the water. But. Any questions? Sorry, I'm just rambling on. But. So a question I have for everyone is, I mean, if you fished tournaments in the past and you stopped fishing them, I mean, my question would be like, why? I mean, what was the deterrent to, you know, fishing? Was it time? Was it money? Was it just experience? You know, because yeah, I mean, participation is the key. The more people that get involved, I mean, the bigger the pots are, the more excitement it is. I mean, it's just better all around. Nobody's fished tournaments? Has anybody thought about fishing tournaments? You have? What deters you from it?
Well, I just switched jobs right during this tournament where I was thinking about it, you know, and it's just experience too. And my boat doesn't have. I still need some equipment to be tournament ready. So my live well is not aerated. It's just a pour in, and my electronics need to be upgraded. And so it's just getting my boat ready to where it can do that, and then also having enough poles to do everything. So it's an equipment thing.
Yeah. Well, and I think there's a misconception, you know, like I've got 5 poles that I use for everything, and I'm always changing. Greg, I think he's got like 19 poles in his boat. Hammer, that guy's probably got 20 plus poles in his boat, you know, and he's got, yeah, so, I mean, those guys that's serious. That's seriousness. You don't need that many poles. I mean, a couple trolling poles, a couple jigging poles, that's about it. And the only reason you want multiple poles is save time, you know, tying up, retying, and you can use different techniques, you know. So I've got braided lines, I've got mono lines, you know, because both fishing lines, you know, can be better for different techniques. So I mean, but no, you don't have to have all the bells and whistles. I mean, these Rocky Mountain anglers let me fish with my little 14-foot boat. I mean, it had a pour-in live well too. So, I mean, it was, yeah, you can start any level. There was a nitro there. There was a $100,000 boat there, and then there was probably a $3,000 boat there at that tournament. So, I mean, it doesn't really matter. It's kind of nice to see every spectrum. You know what I mean?
Yeah, man, I want to see someone with the Barbie pole win the tournament, man.
It happens. It happens all the time. Last year, after the Idaho Classic in Salmon Falls, Tristan and his dad actually won it last year. And I think he had 5 pounds as his big fish, and then they had a couple other decent fish, 2-3 pounders. But nobody brought in a giant fish. You know, usually every tournament, someone's going to bring in a 7-8 pounder, which is just awesome to see. That's a 27, 28 inch fish, you know. And nobody caught one. The next weekend, because I know Anita, she runs a gas station up there in Rogerson, and talked to her, and then Kirk Campbell, who runs Idaho Walleye Unlimited, their club, called him up the next weekend, 2 people from the shore with worms. Just bait fishing worms. One caught a 9 pounder, one caught a 10 pounder.
Wow.
And I was like, that's just how it goes, you know, like you got to be in the right spot at the right time. And obviously the more time you spend on the water, the higher your chances are of connecting those dots. So, and then like I said again, I mean, the wife yells at me all the time, but I've become a fishing fool. I mean, it's just every minute, that's what I do. I'm not a hunter. I don't ATVs. I don't hike. I love camping and stuff, but if I got free time, it's fishing. So I mean, there's definitely a sacrifice, you know, aspect to getting better at anything. Is there's only 24 hours in a day, and especially if you got families and jobs, you got to pick your, like I said, pick your, you know, whatever you're good at talent-wise, focus on that. Don't try to become good at something you're not, you know. Well, you can try to be, but yeah, use your strengths, I guess is what I'm saying. Know what your strengths are and use your strengths. So, and yeah, I've just focused on fishing, and I absolutely love it. So last couple of years have been really good. So, but I'm also not just a straight walleye guy. That is my favorite fish, but I always like to run up to the Snake River and catch some big smallmouth, you know, or perch in the wintertime, or Big rainbows, like I heard someone talk about Deer Creek. I mean, it's fun to catch a big, giant 22-inch rainbow, you know, even though they destroy your net and your crankbait and everything else in your boat. But yeah, still haven't caught a muskie, so maybe one day I'll try to focus on that. But anyways, you guys have any questions?
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you fish your big eye with
The moon eye?
whatever it was?
The moon eye?
Yeah.
Yeah, so VMC Moon Eye, that's the brand, VMC. It's a pill shape, it's kind of a flat, you know, and 1/4 ounce is my favorite. You know, 1/8 ounce for lighter presentations, 1/4 ounce. I usually put minnow baits on them, not curly tails, not paddle tails. I like minnow baits, they have kind of like the pointy tails, you know, almost like drop shot minnows, stuff like that. Because I want them to fall fast. I want to rip them up and let them fall. And just that darting action just drives them fish nuts. So, and I think it's also that plastic, when it comes down and hits, that plastic kind of just folds over and wiggles, you know, and I don't know what it is. Sometimes I fish it, those power bait minnows come with scent already in them, but I like to spray a little bit of crawfish oil on them stuff too, in case, I've done better with that scent, but what's up, Mike?
What's that bait you use that you get snagged down? It's started as an ice fish. What, I can't think of the name of it now, but
Chicken wraps?
yeah, jigging wrap.
There's Rapala jigging wraps.
Big jigging wrap guy. Did you try that? Did you get any percentage of fish on that?
It can be good. It can be a good bait. I mean, it definitely takes technique, and you definitely don't want to throw it in rocks and stuff like that. So it's expensive. It can get expensive.
Especially at Starvation.
Absolutely, yeah. And I mean, it's kind of a new technique. If anybody's watched TVs, you guys ever watch In Fishermen and stuff? I mean, yeah, those guys are experimenting with all kinds of new baits. So it's one of those experimental baits. And yeah, from the ice fishing world, that was fished vertically. But no, I mean, it's a jig. I mean, that's what's versatile, and that's what's nice about any jig, is it can be fished horizontally, vertically. I mean, I've even trolled those darn things, and they still work. You know, drag them across the bottom. So a fish doesn't know that it weighs an ounce. You know, a big piece of lead, it just sees a profile. So, but yeah, I mean, use those. There's puppet minnows. I mean, that's one of my favorite perch bait in the wintertime. There's Northland, the jigging spoons, but then I also use those little puppet minnows, little 1-inchers. Same thing, crash it to the bottom and just rip it up, crash. Just looks like a dying bait fish, you know, it's kicking and flipping off the bottom. So, but any other questions?
Where we can't use live minnows here, is there any dead minnows that you would recommend putting on the jig?
Shiners, just shiners.
Shiner?
Shiners, yeah.
Which color?
Silver.
Silver?
I mean, silver, yeah. I mean, you can't get like perch. I mean, I guess you can, if you can find little baby perch, that'd probably be the best. But can't remember what exactly the Utah state laws are as far as like cut bait. I know cut bait can't be any bigger than 1 inch in either direction, but I don't know if that applies to like a little minnow. You know, because a little minnow is 2-3 inches
Has to
long.
be from the lake that you're fishing.
The what? Sorry.
Has to be from the same lake that you're fishing.
Same lake that you're
So if
fishing?
you're gonna fish cut bait at Utah Lake, you have to catch the bait there.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Or commercial.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, we don't have any of that stuff, you know, live bait, other than, I mean, you can use crickets, you can use worms here, stuff like that. But yeah, no minnows whatsoever. And that's just because we really don't have that many. We do have red-sided shiners. There are some emerald shiners. But here in Utah, the primary forage fish for walleyes is pretty much perch. Unless you go to Willard Bay, and then they like to feed on shad. But what we've kind of noticed, personally, in my opinion, is I think shad is kind of if you had to, you know, if I have to eat something, I'll eat it. If they had a preference, they're going to want a high fat, high oily, fatty bait, like a shiner or a little perch, a little yellow perch or something like that. So, or a goby, or even bullhead catfish. From what I understand, walleyes love those things. So, but yeah, that's what they're feeding on. So that's what I've learned from walleye fishing is They want minnows. I mean, they don't want, they will eat a crawfish if they have to. They'll eat bugs out of Willard if they have to, if there's no other food source. But if there's any kind of minnow around, that's their biggest bang for the buck. So fish baits that imitate minnows, what minnows are keen on. And that was the other thing was, we didn't do it on Thursday, but on Friday, we stuck some fish in the live well and they puked up little perch. Little 3-4 inch perch. So we knew exactly what size to use and what they were keying on. So had they, and then our smallies, big old crawfish came spitting up out of there. But even the perch, we caught a perch that spit up a little crawfish too. So
what was the depth of the smallies that you remember generally catching?
So what was crazy was about 14, 15 feet, what I can estimate, because we were sitting in about 25 to 30 feet of water casting at these deep points. For some reason, the deep points work better than the long, shallow ones. So yeah, 20, 30 feet, I mean, you're only here to the wall, pitching, not even casting, just pitching. And so, I counted down, and that's what I assumed. They were probably about 14, 15 feet down. So, and again, we didn't try any like drop shot, I know that can be good for smallmouth and stuff, but.
How many worms did you take up?
120.
Didn't use many, huh?
Came back with 100.
Yeah.
We bottom bounced for a while, especially when it got, like I said, the grind. The grind is that time where fish just are not biting and you just really have to force feed it down their throat, And so we did. We just bottom bounced because we saw them at the 15 to 20 foot depth. And we just kept running it through them and we picked up a few here and there. So, but no, by far it wasn't the best technique for big fish, bottom bouncing. Vice versa, anybody that fished Willard Bay this spring, I mean, you couldn't keep the 20-inch fish off bottom bouncing out there at Willard. So Willard by far is producing the best average overall quality fish. But again, it's kind of a hard one to fish here in the fall because it's full of shad, just absolutely full of shad. And it's so low you can't even launch from South Marina anymore. But anyways, Dave.
I hate to do this, but the store closes in a half an hour.
Yeah. I've been talking for a long time, so. We're all done with questions?
Yeah, man, thanks.
Ben, you're our hero.
Thank you, Ben.
I appreciate it.
Huge thanks to Ben for his awesome presentation, and congratulations to Ben and to Greg on their big win. And we hope to see you next time at the next Rocky Mountain Anglers meeting.